With so many rideshare drivers continuing to face unsavory endings, whether it is a simple assault, being carjacked, up to and including loss of life, we often suggest that every single trip you engage in, whether with Uber or Lyft, you should have a defensive tool on you. Whether it is mace, something to slice or poke, or even up to and including a firearm. Every driver, every trip, every single damn time should have a defensive tool on them. Nevertheless, the ride-sharing companies, in their terms of service, do not provide the opportunity for us drivers to defend ourselves. So today we're going to talk about a company, a startup, that does. What up, folks? Once again, it is your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. Now, this is in the news coming from both the New York Post and a Forbes article. This company out of Atlanta, Georgia, is indeed a startup company called Black Wolf that provides armed drivers for its passengers. This is a rideshare company, basically Uber with armed drivers. Currently, they only have like 15 cars. So this is a very, very new company, very new startup. They're in the Atlanta metro area, and they're going to be migrating, according to the owner, to the New York metropolitan area. So we're talking about going to big markets. Company was started by this brother here, Kerry King Brown, 32 years old. He's a former private investigator, and he has he got his feet wet providing security for the very controversial Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm not going to get into politics because I got a hell of a lot of opinions on Marjorie Taylor Greene. Nevertheless, if you are providing security for someone that is that controversial, you need to be on the up and up. So that's a good thing with those type of skills that he could be potentially bringing into ride sharing. Now, what do you feel for my veteran drivers out there? Hopefully you are already armed, but I understand, like I stated before, it is not allowed in Uber or Lyft's terms of service. Could indeed get you deactivated from the platform and cause a loss of income. But driving unarmed could obviously cause loss of life in the event you are unable to defend yourself. But we're going to talk about this particular company. The name of the company is Black Wolf. Now, in their statement, it says, in the article, it says, every Black Wolf app vehicle comes equipped with GPS tracking and live streaming technology that allows our riders to share with their loved ones. Now, I believe Uber and Lyft offer something similar to this, whereas not only are you being tracked, but I think they now are trying to implement this themselves so that when you get in an Uber, someone else at a stationary location in a different spot can actually track your progress. Particularly with Uber now coming with this policy where teenagers can now hire vehicles, 13 to 17-year-olds. So you could assume that a lot of parents are going to want to be able to track their children when they get into a stranger's vehicle, known as an Uber. But this company here does allow their vehicles to be tracked by someone else. So that's a good thing, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting to the guns. Now, there is a cost for having an armed driver. And I'm going to give you my opinion on whether I think it's a good idea, because I have some issues with being able to hire a vehicle with an armed driver. Essentially asking, in regards to how much would this benefit a passenger deliberately hiring an armed rideshare driver to step up their safety. Here are the prices. Riders pay a base rate of $50 for an unarmed driver, in addition to $1.75 per mile. A driver who is packing heat would set a rider back $60 as a base rate, followed by a rate of $1.75 per mile. Now, a base rate of $50 is obviously outside of the universe of Uber and Lyft. I mean, $50, if you're only going a short distance, you don't have to entertain anywhere near that riding with Uber and Lyft. So I don't see why it's $50 for an unarmed driver. Why not just catch an Uber or Lyft? but the 60 bucks for a driver with a firearm is where we're here to discuss. Now, the issue I have with this should be obvious to you. If a driver is packing heat, is there any guarantee that if something happens, something transpires during that trip, that driver has any obligations at all to protect your ass? Just because the driver is armed does not mean he's going to have obligations or even a desire to provide any form of protection at all to the passenger. So that's the first thing I would like to know, because we got schools being shot up and the police are not even protecting the children inside. 60 bucks for an armed driver? How much protection do you think you can purchase for 60 bucks and $1.75 a mile? Maybe it's nice to feel the comfort of knowing your driver is armed, but I don't know if something really kicks off if you can depend on that driver to provide protection. This is very similar to the argument I often have when folks suggest arming teachers in schools, and it'll make the children and the parents feel like the children are safe. Do you really expect the teacher to be reliably able to defend a student? Maybe not even have the desire to do so. Maybe just defend herself. And that's what I'm asking in this case, is that, let's say, for instance, given a wild creation, let's say a Crip gets in an Uber and wants to be dropped off at a location that happens to be in a neighborhood full of Bloods, talking about Los Angeles gangs. And all of a sudden, the Crips see the guy getting out of the vehicle, realize this is an op, and start taking position to maybe do something to the passenger. Is the driver obligated to get into a gunfight with a street gang? What is the driver going to do? So I'm really curious to see what is in their terms of service. Are you making some form of a contract? Can the driver potentially sue? Better yet, can the passenger potentially sue if the driver doesn't do shit and some drama's kicking off? 60 bucks doesn't cover any of this. To me, it seems like you're paying 60 bucks for what amounts to a security blanket. Just feeling comfortable knowing that the driver has heat on him. That's about it. I don't think you get any protection, any guarantee or obligated service from that guy carrying a firearm at all. The 60 bucks doesn't cover shit. So I just have to ask that. You guys let me know in the comments, what do you think about this company, Black Wolf, providing armed drivers to the passengers? And also there is the issue of getting a passenger that's on some bullshit and potentially trying to disarm the driver. Understand that if Black Wolf makes it known that their drivers are armed and you're picking up passengers, what if you pick up a passenger that tries to choke you out from the back and disarm you while you're driving? Now, Black Wolf does state all of their drivers, thank God, have firearms training, because we know here in America, the Second Amendment allows you to obtain virtually any firearm without any sort of training. Training is optional in this country. So fortunately, the company is not just putting folks behind the wheel that can say, I have a permit and I own a gun. There needs to be more to it than that. But firearm retention while driving is exceptionally difficult. You're driving a vehicle focused on the road and a passenger decides to try to disarm you from the rear. That's got to be exceptionally difficult to thwart off, unless you have some form of a partition or something in the vehicle. None of that has been covered yet. But if Black Wolf becomes known as a ride-sharing company where drivers are armed, this type of stuff could arise, because now the passengers know you got a gun on you. Assuming it's on your hip or somewhere, I don't know where they would carry it. Now, yours truly, when I advise drivers to carry a firearm, I prefer your non-dominant leg. That way, if it's on an ankle holster, on your non-dominant leg, even if someone is choking you out, it's pretty easy to raise your left or right leg, whichever is their non-dominant, and pull out that firearm and go to work on whoever the hell has their hands around your neck. Also, when it's on your ankle, it reduces passengers from seeing it. If it's on your ankle and it's down up in the wheel well when you're driving a vehicle, it reduces the likelihood of passengers seeing your arm. And we've done videos on passengers that have seen drivers carrying around stun guns, reported them to the ride-sharing companies. I believe a woman, an African-American woman in Baltimore, was basically deactivated from the app because a passenger saw that she had a stun gun on her. So I do advise, strongly advise, always having defensive tools on you, but you need to keep them out of sight of the passengers. Even in society, I strongly believe that concealed carry is a more advantageous way of protecting yourself than open carry, because it gives you tactical advantage and an element of surprise. But certainly in a vehicle where somebody might try to disarm you, it would be better off if they didn't know where the hell that weapon was. But once again, none of this has come out yet. This is still in its infancy. This company, like I stated, it only has 15 cars. Unless they can show some serious promise to secure folks, I think requesting $50 to $60 just to get in the vehicle and $1.75 per mile is pretty damn high. I think that a lot of us realize, a lot of our passengers that don't tip us shit on mini rides are looking for the cheapest method of transportation. And they're not looking to pay anywhere near $50 or $60 to hail a vehicle. So this would be, upscale, more VIP clientele that may pay it. But there is a market for it. There is indeed a market for it. I'm assuming there is a market. 15 cars, maybe he go to New York and blow it up to maybe 100. I mean, there's a market for folks who want to be protected, but it has to be in the contract that you're obligated to do something if shit pops off. And in the article on Forbes and New York Post or whatever the hell it was, none of that was stated. But what about you folks? I want to ask this before I end the video to my veteran drivers that have been driving for a while. If you could earn $1.75 a mile or even upwards of $2 per mile, would you be willing to carry a firearm, get firearms training, and shuttle around passengers that want this service? Is this something you would be willing to consider? You get to carry a firearm, but you may down the road be obligated if some shit pops off to participate, meaning random gunfights and shit of that nature. Let me know in the comments. It's your boy Tim. Subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.
Bitch, I got my ride.